Hey guys, welcome back to Daniel Rosehill Plus here on YouTube. My name's Daniel Rosehill and I'm bringing you today's video not from my usual location but from a garden here in the state of Connecticut actually. I'm visiting the US for a couple of weeks and I've been brought to Connecticut by visiting in-laws, interesting part of the country. And while I'm here just before Shabbat starts on a Friday evening, I wanted to do a quick video regarding my thoughts on caffeine pills because a couple of my friends are aware that I've kind of dabbled, experimented with caffeine pills over the years, and I have a couple of thoughts that I wanted to just put out there about these things. I got into caffeine pills before I was started figuring out mental health issues and an actual diagnosis like depression, an actual medication like antidepressants. I was basically loading up on caffeine as a way of self-medicating issues with energy, focus, motivation, especially to kind of get me going in the morning. And for many, many years, I was a sort of avid fan of coffee. There's so many coffee enthusiasts now that you probably get the picture. My particular thing was Turkish coffee. So I had this big apparel of beans and grinders, and I consider myself a hobbyist, but at some point I kind of realized I was just doing this for the drug caffeine. I couldn't really care about coffee. This was kind of an epiphany I had after doing this for a number of years. And again, while I was figuring out the whole medication issue, and even after starting to figure out medication, and even now, I try not to use these, but I do find caffeine pills, a big box of these, I mean, they're just so cheap. This is 500 100 milligram caffeine pills from a company called NutriCost. I bought these on Amazon for something like $15. And if you limit yourself to one of these per day, which is very, very small, that's about the equivalent to 1 cup of coffee. This $15 box would last you over a year. If you took 2 of these a day, it would be 250 days. So not quite a year, but the majority of it for $15. So compared to coffee, this is super cost effective. I'm trying to avoid these because I'm trying to use actual medication whenever I have a mental health issue, like maybe that's fatigue. That could be a sign that my depression is getting worse or there's something else going on. But in their time and place, caffeine pills I find very useful. A few uses I have for them. Firstly, there were a couple of medications I've taken that have been very fatigue inducing. Probably the worst one, famous med for this, was amitriptyline. It makes you so tired and groggy. And I think I tried that med for about 3 months. During the first month, when I was literally had a hard time functioning, these things were literal lifesavers. And when you're all kind of groggy and spaced out, popping one of these or 2 of these is a lot easier than making a cup of coffee. So that's one thing I would say is if you're going through the mental health journey, I find caffeine as an adjuvant, as a supplement. It doesn't really have interactions with medications. I still find it useful to have a box of these on hand. The reason I'm trying to not use these much also is because my blood pressure is a bit high, so in really moderation. And that brings me on to the second point that I wanted to make, which is that the type of caffeine pills, the reason I buy this brand is because it's one of the few products on the market that's formulated at 100 milligrams. These are 100 milligrams caffeine per serving. A fringe benefit of taking caffeine pills, if you like me are sort of trying or have to monitor your blood pressure, is you know exactly how much caffeine you're consuming, whereas with coffee it's always kind of a bit of a crapshoot. But 100 milligrams, if you can look up how much caffeine is in a cup of coffee, and it's going to vary little based on whether you're consuming coffee as espresso or Turkish or filter. Different coffee preparation methods yield slightly different caffeine quantities, but basically your average cup of coffee is roughly 80 milligrams of caffeine. So this 100 milligrams of caffeine in these pills comes in at just a little bit over your average cup of coffee. Now, these 100 milligram caffeine supplements are the outliers. The vast majority of caffeine pills on the market are formulated at 200 milligrams, and it is my contention that that is way too high, because if we think about 1 cup of coffee being 80 milligrams, taking a 200 milligram caffeine supplement is going to be like slamming back 2.5 cups of coffee, and it's going to hit your stomach all at once, which is already something unique about caffeine pills. Is going to, you're going to have the caffeine at once. But in my opinion, the 100 milligram, so that's my recommendation for, a couple of my friends, as I mentioned at the start here, have asked me about caffeine pills. And my first thing I usually say is, if you're taking them because you have ADHD or depression, there are much better options out there. Speak to your doctor. That being said, I do still feel that they have a place as kind of a side treatment, or if I also keep a few of these in the car as well, which is something I highly recommend, keeping a little emergency reserve if you're ever driving and beginning to feel like you could use a cup of coffee. I find them very helpful for that reason as well. But yeah, my contention is that the vast majority of caffeine pills there on the market are over formulated, and you're going to get 200 milligrams. It's going to give you all the worst things, the caffeine, the jitter, whatever. If you're going to take caffeine pills at all, I recommend doing some moderation. Stick to one of these per day and you'll be basically having 1 cup of coffee per day. And 100 milligrams I think is just so much better and more logical of a dose than 200 milligrams. And I think I'm probably already repeating myself. So that's the end of my video. Hope this was helpful. I don't really have any particular brand affinities or recommendations. Whatever I can find on Amazon that is 100 milligrams, I'll generally buy one tub of these per year, and that'll usually get me through. And you can also get these on iHerb and supplement stores. They're really not hard to find, and they're not expensive, and they're certainly cheaper than buying coffee for sure. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. Until next time.